to your right. When he brought this character to you, what kind of went through your mind about how you find her? Because I mean, it's such a moral complexity, and you bring such humanity to her, but at the same time, you know that the audience is going to be watching this film with very clear ideas about what she did.
Yeah. You know, the funny thing is that when I said yes immediately. I mean, Todd actually slipped me the script. He said to me, Natalie, just send me this, I want you to see it. And immediately I was like, oh my God, absolutely. When do we start? When do we start? And then at one point we had these weird scheduling issues, and so I was going to have to kind of go in right after another movie. And I said to my husband, "It'll be okay though, because I can do this. It's with Todd. It'll be easy. It'll be fine." And then I started working on it when the other movie moved, fell apart. So I just started doing the work, and I was called up Todd. I said, "I can't do this. This is too hard." I was really struggling because of that. I'm like, who is this woman? How she is holding on so strongly to her own narrative, to her own performance, and what is that performance? And I was struggling with some, you know, in her home, she appears to be in charge, giving everyone all these directions, saying this goes this way, this goes. And it wasn't quite jiving with what I was feeling about her until I realized that it was like that she's like a little girl with an apron on and a wooden spoon in her hand, saying, "Today I'm the mom." And mom says this, and it was that, her insistence, and it's in the script, her naivete, her experience with her brothers and her father, and her hyper femininity. You know, she's incredibly genderized. And so, and basically, you know, this great love story that she's had, that she kind of, that's how she sees it, that they fell in love, and they were like Romeo and Juliet, and he's her prince, she's the princess, and in order to do that, she needed to elevate a 13-year-old boy to being a man, and she remains a child. So hanging on to that narrative, that's what was really interesting. The will of someone who could do that, and the distance between what she is telling, what she is performing, and what happened is vast. And then there's all this crazy volatility, emotional volatility. And that was what Sammy put in the script too, that these private moments of, you know, almost, you know, where she just basically disintegrates, but in public she's something else.
Charles, what's really fascinating about Joe as a character is he starts the film really, I mean, literally, really in the background. You know, I mean, he's behind the scenes of these two women meeting for the first time, and you can get a sense immediately of a certain, he's very protective of Gracie. Over the course of the film, the more time, the more time she spends in this world, the more the surface starts to crack for Joe. Tell me about charting that from your experience, you know, what it must be. I mean, I wonder what went through your mind about what must have been going through his mind, if that's not too complicated a way of phrasing it.
No, that's a great question. You know, Sammy, her script and just kind of the layout of who Joe was so fast and gave me so much opportunity to understand who this man was. And you know, the first thing I really looked at was the immense responsibility that was given to him at such a young age, being a father, and just how that would progress to the age of 36, leading up to the 2-week span of his kids graduating and being an empty nester for the first time, and just kind of understanding the repressed kind of tragedy that lives inside of him that slowly comes to the surface with the arrival of Elizabeth, Natalie's character, and just his own awakening, so to speak, and just understanding kind of how that would live in just his physical nature, because Joe doesn't want to take up any space. He's kind of just in the background. He's following orders. You know, he loves his kids, but really he's putting everything before himself. And when he gets the opportunity to talk about himself, you know, for the first time, really in the walk and talk scene with Elizabeth, we kind of see him start to break open.
Well, Natalie, I have to ask about Elizabeth's motivations as well, because they're so nebulous in the early part of the film. And you know, to be honest, throughout the film, you never quite know where she stands on any of it. How much of a joy was that to play for you? And I have to ask, is she based on any actresses, any actors or actresses you might have come across?
Well, I felt that Sammy's writing of this character was so specific and so familiar. I mean, I think that there's something that we all talk about a lot of, that we're not here to be judges of characters, and that we can never judge our characters, that we're trying to get into people's hearts and minds, and sometimes you play people who commit crimes. That doesn't mean that you believe that those crimes should be committed. We as artists are curious, about the internal workings of the human heart, and that art is amoral. And I think this is a big question of, can art really be amoral? Like, is that really a possibility? And I think that, I don't think there's an answer to it, but I think that this certainly pokes a lot of holes in that kind of argument, which, is amazing to get to go into, because that's what we do all the time.
Todd, I'd love to ask about, first of all, the setting of the film. We were talking outside about, planes flying overhead, this kind of family living what seems like an idyllic life by the lake, and then you start to realize it's not so idyllic. You also shot the film in 23 days, which I find remarkable. Tell me about what you wanted to do, where you wanted to place this family.
The original setting was in Maine, northeast US, and we, of course, as things happen in filmmaking and when schedules change and shift, and all of a sudden I became available middle of last year to possibly do this movie, and checked into everybody and to see if there was a possibility that Julianne and Natalie might be free sometime, and they overlapped for a very brief little time in the fall last year. And so, but the film is set in May. It's very important. The kids are graduating, and it's sort of hanging over the narrative, this sort of panic about the fact that this is going to be an empty nest, that the couple is going to be alone and confronting each other. Couldn't possibly shoot May in the Northeast or anywhere in the Eastern Seaboard, and I had just been in Savannah, Georgia for the festival recently, and I'd been there before. And I just started to talk about the possibility of Savannah with Sammy Senko, my production designer. And then we started to talk to Sammy, and Sammy had actually a lot of experience in Savannah, from having started out in her college, going to SCAD initially before she went to NYU. Sam and I went out in August and just started to find this tone, this sense of a place so laden with complicated history. Beautiful, preserved, historic Savannah, gorgeous, but Tybee Island is where we sort of contrasted that world where Gracie lives, which is an island community, on that marshy, kind of humid backdrop that you described, and that just influenced the look, the feel, the locations, the specificity that the film tries to really embrace.
I have to just finally ask, there's a lot of movie in this movie. To shoot it all in 23 days, I wonder, in a way, does that kind of aid the experience for you? There is a bit of a sense of a rush on, and emotions heighten when you're in a rush, right? I wonder if that reflected in the shoot for you guys at all. Any of you?
I think anytime you add a sense of urgency to something, obviously it sort of elevates your experience. But what was great, honestly, was the degree of talent that was available for this. Like, the actors, Todd and his extraordinary gifts, our entire crew, Chris Glaubat, our cinematographer. I mean, people were at the top of their game, and everyone rose to the occasion. And so it was sort of like, it was joyful. It was so fun. It was such an amazing experience, and it was like sneezing. It was over that quickly, But we were all so sad when it was done, because it really, you don't get opportunities like this very often. We were all very grateful for it.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's an absolutely stunning film. I think what it deals with is so complex and so fascinating. I saw it in Cannes in May. and I'm still thinking about it now. We're coming up to December. What can I tell you?
Ladies and gentlemen, a huge thank you to the team behind the It's going to come to me in the moment, that one. We're coming up.